Exemption.
Good morning. Welcome to a voting meeting of the House Finance Committee, followed by a public hearing on House Bill 1450. I'd like to start with our Senior Committee Legislative Assistant, Lori Smith, calling the roll.
Chairman Samuelson.
Here.
Rep. Abney. Sapita Freites.
Vote by designation.
Fleming. Gallagher. Gungauer. Harris. Designation.
Vote by designation.
Inglis. Krajewski.
Vote by designation.
Rabb.
Vote by designation.
Scott.
Vote by designation.
Vincent.
Vote by designation.
Waxman. Webster. Chairman Griner.
Here.
DeVanzo.
Vote by designation.
Fritz.
Vote by designation.
Gatos.
Vote by designation.
Jones.
Vote by designation.
Kephart.
Vote by designation.
Kutz. Mako. Rossi. Rinkavich. Stamba.
Vote by designation.
And Stender.
All accounted for, and I do know there are several voting meetings going on in the Capitol at the same time. So that's why we have so many vote by designations. I'd like to start by calling up House Bill 1306, printers number 1500, sponsored by Representatives Fleming and Representative Kerwin. And we had a public hearing on this bill last week. We have an amendment on this bill, and I'd like to call up that amendment. Amendment 738, and I'm the sponsor of that amendment. I'd like to start with our committee executive director giving a summary of the amendment.
Amendment 738 would establish a $5,000 cap for contributions and make distributions exempt from the personal income tax as long as the individual is 65 years of age.
Thank you. We had this bill in the previous session, and we had the 65-year-old threshold in the legislation last time. We had some discussion in our hearing last week about how large these length of service payments could be. The practice of Lower Paxton Township is just a couple $100s a year. The maximum is a couple of $1,000s. So we're putting in a limit of $5,000 in this amendment, if the committee agrees, that contributions of up to $5,000, that would qualify to be tax-free from Pennsylvania income tax. That, of course, does not include any growth in the fund if you've put $5,000 in and it grows. So that is my amendment before the committee. Is there any discussion on the amendment? Representative Fleming.
Chairman, I just want to say thank you for offering the amendment to clarify and tighten up the language, and thank you so much for running the bill. Appreciate you.
Thank you. Are there any negative votes on Amendment 738? The amendment passes unanimously. I forgot to have our committee executive director have a description of the bill in chief as amended.
The bill would exclude contributions as well as distributions from Volunteer Firefighter Length of Service Award, known as LOSABs.
Thank you. Is there any discussion on House Bill 1306 as amended? Are there any negative votes on House Bill 1306 as amended? The bill passes the committee unanimously as amended. Thank you. Now we'll go into a committee discussion on a bill proposed, House Bill 1450. And we have Representative Nate Davidson from right here in Harrisburg, the prime sponsor of this bill, who's going to testify and introduce us to House Bill 1450.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, committee members, for joining us here this morning. This is an interesting piece of legislation. And just wanted to start giving some context on the thought process behind it, how we kind of arrived at the current draft language, and where we want to go from here. So, again, thank you all for being here this morning. So the concept for this bill, the co-sponsor memo I sent out was a homebuyer tax credit. And as we've gone through some various machinations, the bill's evolved a little bit and ended up at this language. But the original idea was, one, to help home buyers with inflationary costs. As we know, in the past many years, in the post-COVID times, the average cost of a home has dramatically increased, making it really difficult for home buyers, whether it's the first time or not the first time, to purchase a home. So trying to figure out a way to help individuals who are looking to purchase with inflationary costs, and thinking about what we can do as a legislative body and a Commonwealth to help spur the market. You know, I don't believe the government's role is to come in and set the price of housing, but what we can do is address some of the revenues that we collect during the sale. And the second thing I want to point out is, you know, to my friends at the Chamber of Commerce, you've been heard loud and clear. In 2030, we face another census. We do it every 10 years. It's not a scary thing. But for the past many decades, Pennsylvania has consistently lost a congressional seat in Washington. In my view, this hurts our ability to leverage our power, our strength, our position as the Commonwealth in Washington. And, you know, I would like to explore ways to spur population growth in the Commonwealth so we stop that trend. We need as many congressional representatives as we can get in Washington advocating for our Commonwealth. And hopefully this proposal will spur home buying in the Commonwealth, and not only for new individuals who are moving into the Commonwealth, but also for people who are here already from moving out. So with that, the bill generally, it peels off about a 10% portion, 10% of the realty transfer tax, just the state portion. We leave the county share alone, to fund this program. Now, I talked about the increase of home prices over the past many years. Pre-pandemic, the RTT was bringing in about $500 million in state revenue. In the past few years, that has increased to about $750, $800 million in some recent years. So we're getting more money from the RTT because it's percentage-based. But that's because the price of housing has increased. So I peel off 10% of the RTT to fund this program, and the program would give a rebate to a first-time-in-a-while home buyer, and I want to focus on that. First time in a while, the definition in the bill is first time in Pennsylvania ever, so someone moving in from out of state. Hopefully our economic policies here are attracting businesses to move to Pennsylvania and bring employees with them, so this would benefit that. But in addition, it's first time in the past 5 years if you're a Pennsylvania resident. That doesn't just help new families who are looking for an extra bedroom, but it also helps empty nesters who are looking to downsize or move to a place where they don't have to mow the lawn anymore. So really, it's not just first time ever home buyers, it's first time in a while. And you know, I ended up with a rebate model as opposed to a tax credit because I wanted those home buyers to get a check in the mail shortly after the sale, a direct benefit to them, as opposed to waiting next year when they file their taxes and getting a credit on like, I wanted a direct impact to those home buyers. They can use that money for fresh coat of paint, a new washer and dryer, money in their pocket, their first couple mortgage payments, whatever. I just wanted to get that right in the hands of the home buyer, you know, and spur the market that way. And finally, going back to the census in 2030, this program, as written, is set to sunset in 2030. And we wrote in the bill to have a report presented to the General Assembly on the efficacy of the program. You know, over time, we want to see if this is actually spurring the market to grow or not. And if it's not, we can roll it back and just let it sunset. But if it is, and it is increasing the population of Pennsylvania, and it is seeing the market move and increase potentially the total receipts from the RTT, even though it is a 10% peel off, we need to have that data so we can make that choice. But keeping 2030 as a kind of like an end date in mind, all around the census, I think this concept that we have before us today hopefully will address all of those issues. I'm happy to take questions, or Mr. Chair, if you want to go to our other testifier before we go for questions. And I just want to note, forgive me for being a first-term member here, but part of the legislative process is taking input from other members in the House and the Senate, amending bills, working it through the process. I don't claim for this to be a perfect product, but it's the start of a conversation that I think could really have a positive impact on the Commonwealth. So with that, Mr. Chair, I'll yield back.
Thank you, Representative Davidson. I do have some questions myself, but I think we should go to our other testifier, and then we'll open it up to the committee for any questions. We are fortunate to have Mark Kibbe, Chair of the Pennsylvania Association of Realtors Legislative Committee, who has joined us this morning and is going to testify about House Bill 1450. Mr. Kibbe.
Awesome. Well, thank you. Good morning, everybody. Chairman Samuelson, Chairman Greiner, and members of the House Finance Committee. Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you today. As was noted, I'm Mark Kibbe, Chair of the Pennsylvania Association of Realtors Legislative Committee, and a realtor with Keller Williams up in Erie, Pennsylvania. And yes, the snow has melted. I represent PAR's 38,000 members. Our members are experts who abide by a code of ethics and work to help citizens across the Commonwealth achieve the dream of homeownership. I am certain that many, if not all in this committee, are aware of the benefits of homeownership. It is a tremendous opportunity to create generational wealth. In the last decade, homeowners saw their overall debt drop by 21% due to increasing real estate values, to say nothing of the social benefits that homeownership brings to citizens and communities. But if you happen to talk to a friend or family member looking to purchase a home in today's market, you're likely to hear a very different story from the one you may have heard a decade ago. A confluence of factors has made buying a home today challenging for many and too challenging for some. While multiple factors have created this climate, fundamentally, an inventory shortage serves as the foundation of this crisis. Estimates vary, but our research suggests Pennsylvania has a housing stock shortage of roughly 98 to 137,000 units. We see these shortages in our local markets, particularly in the number of lower-priced homes. For example, in March 2018, Pennsylvania had more than 68,000 listings on the market. Compared to March of this year, we had approximately 33,000, a more than 50% drop. The law of supply and demand has kept the median home price up. In March of 2025, the median home price, sales price in Pennsylvania was $285,000. Compare that to March of 2018, when the median price was $140,000. Numbers like these pose a challenge to many potential homebuyers, but disproportionately hinder first-time homebuyers. First-time homebuyers account for the lowest percentage of the market share since the National Association of Realtors has been recording that data. Prior to 2008, first-time homebuyers made up 40% of the market. Currently, they make up just 24% of national homebuyers, which is down from 32% the previous year. If you apply that number to our Commonwealth, that means of the more than 110,000 homes sold in Pennsylvania last year, first-time homebuyers purchased roughly just 26,000 homes. First-time homebuyers often struggle with the sheer total costs required upfront for purchasing a home, such as the down payment and closing costs. And again, lack of inventory makes the concept of a, quote, starter home, end quote, less and less available. Furthermore, they are competing within a highly competitive market against investors expanding their rental portfolios, seniors looking to downsize, housing being converted to short-term rentals, and cash buyers, to name just a few. Simply put, first-time homebuyers need our help. We at the Pennsylvania Association of Realtors are encouraged to see leaders in both chambers from all sides of the political spectrum answer the call to intervene on behalf of those people struggling to get into that first home or step up to their next home, traditionally as a result of a growing family. House Bill 1450, sponsored by Representative Davidson, is one such bill. Intended to help those who want to make Pennsylvania their home, his bill provides a tax rebate to offset some of the costs for first-time homebuyers. The Pennsylvania Association of Realtors Legislative Committee, again, which I am honored to chair, has endorsed his bill, and we hope it finds its way in front of you all for a vote. House Bill 1450 is one of multiple pieces of legislation that our committee has supported, which aims to help first-time homebuyers. For example, my state representative, Ryan Bizzarro, his first-time homebuyers savings account program legislation, I understand just passed and out of the House on Monday, so that's awesome news. I know that's been a work in progress for many years now, but we also, again, support other bills from members that aim to help first-time homebuyers by easing the burden of the realty transfer tax. Additionally, Governor Shapiro mentioned his desire to help this group specifically in his budget address in February. It is our hope that something will break through the legislative process to assist more Pennsylvanians with achieving home ownership, and our association is honored to help with that endeavor in any way that we can. So thank you all, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kibbe. And yes, that bill that Representative Bizzarro proposed has passed the House, saying that any contributions from a first-time homebuyer into a fund would be tax deductible in Pennsylvania, similar to an 529 account or an ABLE account. This proposal, I appreciate Representative Davidson bringing this forward. I do have a couple questions. I know the Realty Transfer Tax Fund, as you said, is pretty healthy, currently about $500 million. And I'm looking at a chart here available on the Department of Revenue website. Over the last 20 years, it usually is about 500. During the Great Recession, as low as 279 million, but then a couple years ago as high as 850 million. So consistently always in the neighborhood of about $500 million. Legislatively, we have designated some of the realty transfer tax for other purposes. The Keystone Recreation Park and Conservation Fund gets about 15% annually. So recently about $100 million goes from realty transfer tax to the Keystone Recreation Park and Conservation Fund. Also, we support the FAIR program. That's through the Pennsylvania Housing Finance Agency. That's the Pennsylvania Housing Affordability and Rehabilitation Enhancement Fund. As you recall from last year's budget, it was about $60 million a year, a flat number. We raised it to $70 million for the current year, and we voted to ramp that up to $100 million over the next 3 years. So one question I have, certainly with $500 million in the fund, there's enough to do the Keystone Fund, Keystone Recreation Fund. There's enough to do the FAIR Fund, and also a new proposal like you're bringing forward. I'm not sure if we need legislation to designate, a sentence in your bill to designate the priority of which of those endeavors would take priority in case the fund ever would not be in a position to fund all three. Just ask for your comment, Representative Davidson.
I appreciate it, and it's helpful to note. Yeah, we do have those specific designations for the revenues from this revenue stream. You know, the Keystone is a percentage, right? Just like my proposal here is also a percentage. The FAIR funding is that's a hard number, right? So that would probably come out first. I'm not an appropriator. I'm not on the Appropriations Committee. But yeah, to your point, in recent years, it really has ballooned, and that's been a result of these increasing home prices, right? Which almost doubled compared to 2018, just 7 years ago. And so now we're pushing $750, $800, $850 million. So even with the FAIR increase, even with the 15% for Keystone and this additional 10% for this new program, we would still land back at about the $500 million going back into the general fund, which is still more than we were doing pre-pandemic. So in my view, we have the room there in this revenue stream because of this ballooned revenue increase from the increased price of home sales.
Thank you. I just have two more questions. I want to open it up to anybody else. You said these grants could be up to $2,500. Is there some threshold of how much a house would have to cost to qualify for the $2,500?
No, I didn't put any scale in. You know, I had thought about doing a percentage of the sale or a percentage of the RTT back to you. but ended up on just a hard number of $2,500.
So pretty much, if you qualify for the program, you would get 2,500.
Yep.
If this program were in place right now and you got, this fund had 10% of 500 million, it would have about $50 million. Would be enough to fund about 20,000 of these first-time homebuyer grants. Do you have any sense of what the demand for this would be across Pennsylvania? That's for you or Mr. Kibbe?
You know, I don't know off the top of my head what the demand would be. However, I think it's probably a good starting point, right? You know, we don't want to make this fund too big and have it balloon over the years where it just carries a big balance. And we have the ability to, if we find it's not enough and there's actually more of these home buyers out there, we can go back in future years and expand the pot. But Mr. Kibbe, I don't know if you have any additional comments.
Yeah, just, and I like the idea of the notion that it sunsets. So we have the opportunity to see if this is going to work. Again, last year, I think the numbers were around 26,000 homes in Pennsylvania were sold to first-time home buyers. Again, I don't know if there's a magic number, but that one seems like a logical starting point to hopefully spur some additional buying power for those first-time home buyers.
I know Chair Greiner has a question, but I'm going to do a quick follow-up on what you just said. If the fund had enough to fund 20,000 grants and all 26,000 people signed up, would you do first come, first serve, or would you just prorate and everybody would get 2,100 or 1,900?
I think probably first come, first serve. It is a hard number for the rebate in the bill, $2,500. So yeah, if the fund ran out of money, there would be some people at the end of the year who would not receive it. So we would have to address that in the future. But also open to other constructive criticisms and comments that we can put in the bill to prevent that from happening.
Thank you. Chair Greiner.
Yeah, I had just a couple questions. From a macro perspective, I think it's not a bad bill. From a micro, not sure. I do think the question you addressed, which is what I was thinking of. I think if we're going to have a program, everybody should be getting something. If that takes it down to $2,000 a household or $1,750 or whatever, I don't know how you do first come, first serve, because it would probably be done on a tax return. And just making that comment, and I think that's something. The other thing that I'm going to be upfront, I struggle with is, and obviously it's the first time we've really kind of gone over this bill, is the definition you use, not first-time home buyer.
First time in a while.
I don't like it. I'm going to be upfront with you. I'm against that. I don't understand. I want to see first-time home buyers get the credit. Seniors already have a lot of equity and net worth, and I mean the timetable. And I'd have to study it more, even talk to you or discuss it more. I don't get it. In fact, I don't support it. That idea. Just initially here, you make a good point. I have a lot of ideas how we could grow congressional seats here in the Commonwealth and legislation that would work as well that would not pass probably. And I even got other bills. I mean, there's other more meaningful things we can do to increase economic growth and get people to live here in the Commonwealth, just to say. But anyway, those two things I think stand out. I don't necessarily. I guess the third one would be with my background is we really in bad financial state. We're in bad financial shape in this Commonwealth, very bad. Structural deficit's huge. The proposed budget's out of control. What are we going to do with? Where's the shortfall going to come? We are going to be pulling $50 million out of the general fund. Where is that going to be made up?
That's a good question. I just do want to address the first time in a while, because I understand we have.
Well, this is the first
opinion
I've
here.
heard of it too.
Yeah. I should trademark it. That's what I should do. It's a new one. No, but to go to the seniors in particular, to your point, many of them may have savings over the years, retirement accounts and whatnot. But I think in all of our communities, there are many seniors who've lived in their home for many, many years, and they're facing the property taxes that they face all the time, right? And on a fixed income, it's harder and harder. And maybe you don't have that savings. You don't have the ability. And you know, you'll get a good price for your home if you own it outright and you're going to sell and move to a different place. But in my view, it helps loosen up the market for those individuals as well.
I understand your argument. I'm just saying I just don't understand. So it's only 5 years.
Yeah. Yeah, and I guess the
So
idea is
like
like I
a
don't want
parent,
house.
like if
oh,
I
we-
have a parent that lived in the same house for 50 years and they want to downsize. See, I got a hard time with that.
I understand.
I'm just saying I have a hard time with that.
To your second point, though, on the where we find the money, yeah, we are pulling this 10% of this, the RTT, out of the general fund,
Well, I
right?
understand
About
that.
$50 million. I will just point to the IFO report that came out on May 1st. You know, revenues are up 1.5% over projection, which is about $500 million over projected revenues for the current fiscal year. Now, I understand the governor's proposal was here, and last year's Commonwealth budget was here. But we're still coming in above where we were last year, so we have, in my view, some money to spend into new programs. Obviously, there's many other considerations, education, transportation, you name it. But there is revenue over anticipation right now.
I just want to come full circle and just say macro, I like the bill. I just want to let you know that I do think, and to your credit, you talked about, you know, listening and trying to find ways maybe to, because obviously that question was the one that jumped to me right away was Chairman Samuelson's. It's like, well, geez, what happens if we, you know, if we don't have enough money or we earmark that? So I mean, that's something we're gonna have to think about. Yeah. But I do think the other one too. I really think we should target it the first time. That's just me. I think it should be targeted first time home buyers.
Thank you. And we can work on the language of the bill. I think as written right now, the Department of Revenue, if somebody's eligible for up to $2,500, they would have that issue of if we had more applicants than the available funds. But we can come up with language to give them further direction about first come, first serve, or prorating, or some other suggestion. I have a question from Representative Waxman.
Thank you, Chairman, and just thank you so much, Rep. Davidson, for bringing this bill forward. And you know, I think you hit the nail on the head in terms of the crisis that is facing us in terms of the cost of housing in the Commonwealth and really around this country. And anything that we can do to try to bring down those costs, I think, for our residents is something that is just really important. And I'm just grateful that you're working on that and brought this bill forward. I do want to also just note, for the record, that the governor has offered a balanced budget proposal, right? We have a proposal in front of us that, you know, meets all of our obligations in a responsible way. And so I just want to make sure I note that. My question really is about what do you think this means for people who are residents who live outside of Pennsylvania or are new Pennsylvanians? And specifically, you know, what is it going to do to attract people potentially from other states? Because we know that the cost of housing is an issue all over this country, and one of Pennsylvania's advantages is that we maybe can keep costs lower than other states and that we can have a lower cost of living. We see a lot of instability with the national economy, with the international economy, and I would really like us to be thinking, you know, okay, so how are we positioning Pennsylvania to go against those headwinds at the national level and be an attractive place for people to come and to live, and how does this proposal fit with that?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. Thank you. And that's one of the reasons in the definition of who's eligible, it's first time ever purchasing a home in Pennsylvania. I put that in there intentionally because, you know, one, you know, hopefully our economic policies are attracting businesses to move to Pennsylvania. Hopefully they bring employees with them and move their families here to our great schools. But, you know, we also, in the Commonwealth, we don't tax retirement here, right? And so we are, in many cases, a destination for seniors who are looking for a place to retire. This is one more thing on that list. It says, hey, move here to Pennsylvania. We'll help you out with the home sale and give you a rebate right away. And by the way, while you live here, we're not going to tax your retirement. So hopefully it's not just, it's a variety of types of individuals who may be moving here, whether for work or to retire. And Throw up a shout out to college students who are purchasing homes, though it's in short supply these days.
Thank you. I have a question from Representative Rossi.
So I was just thinking, what if the person selling the home would just mark it up $2,500 and then they have a little more to play with if they know you're a first-time buyer? They can say, well, you're going to get that $2,500, so keeping that amount the same, and then if it's not, they could say, well, I'll knock it down a little bit. So I think that could backfire.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Mark, do you have any comments on that?
So, you know, that I just listed a home on Saturday. I got 6 offers. It was a $300,000 home. We're well over $50,000 above asking price. You know, in this current market, I'm not sure sellers are going to focus on that. I think they're going to be looking at just what's before them, and that's just a little piece that's going to help put those first-time home buyers in play. I mean, as I mentioned, I mean, the fundamental underlying cause is inventory. So we have to find a way, if we can balance inventory with supply and demand, that's going to help first-time home buyers. That's going to help all home buyers, and that's our challenge. This is a nibble. I mean, it's the old death by 1,000 cuts. We've got to tackle this thing. I mean, we've got septic permitting issues. We've got insurance issues. We've got retirees. We mentioned retirees. There's so many retirees that don't want to leave their current home because if they buy another home and say they don't have the full cash value of the home, they've got to finance it at current rates, and they don't want to spend that. I have another one where a couple's divorcing, a 5,000 square foot home, huge home. He's going to live there by himself because he and his wife couldn't find something, or his soon-to-be ex-wife, couldn't find something affordable at the same mortgage payment that was half the home. So we've got all these challenges, but I don't think a seller is going to focus on that. I could be wrong, but.
Thank you. I disagree, but thank you.
Any other comments or questions from members of the committee? I'd like to have Nate Davidson, our representative, give us a closing summary.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Chairman Greiner, and all the members here for learning about this bill. I do hope we receive consideration. And I did just want to take an extra moment to give a shout out to Representative Kutz. One of the things that spurred me to do this bill is because I saw one of his bills and, got our brains thinking. And to Mark's point, there are many proposals out there in the legislative body to assist the home buyer and the home buying process, in particular first-time home buyers. Whether it's a savings account, whether it's a full exemption, or this kind of carve out for a rebate program. And I just want to commend Representative Kutz for joining me on this journey and trying to see if we can do something to help home buyers in the Commonwealth, spur the market, and maybe even end up with more revenue than we currently have from this revenue stream. So thank you, Mr. Chair, for your consideration today.
Thank you. And I do note you have 4 members of the committee as co-sponsors of this legislation. I know Chair Greiner has a closing comment.
No, I don't think I do, other than thank you. And like I said, I think it's an area that I think we definitely should look at and see whether we can get our hands around it. But it's there's always, I mean, you kind of spurred on another question. I don't know what happens with divorcees and stuff like, then you get, you have split. I don't know how that's going to work we've lived together, get divorced after, I guess they each get the credit. I don't know. I'm just saying it just made me think about maybe the nuances to certain situations, where people weren't together anymore or something like that. Anyway, it's always in the details.
You're talking about.
But thank you for bringing the bill forward.
Thank you. Well, I appreciate it. I wanted to give the committee time to consider this legislation. We could consider this as early as the week of June 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. I do want to note for the committee, I'm having a challenge finding rooms available in the Capitol with 26 committees. So in the month of June, some of our meetings might be at the first break 11:30, 12, 12:30, but I will do my best to find rooms before the session starts. I do note this is a very active committee. We have 3 of our bills coming up today on the House floor. We have Representative Schusterman's bill about eliminating the lottery profit margin, Representative Friel's legislation about the beginning farmer tax credit, and Representative Cepeda Freitas's bill about allowing Department of Revenue to send out your property tax rent rebate early before July 1st, as long as all the paperwork is processed. Thank you. With no further business before today's meeting, I adjourn this meeting.